Would you be able to bar Biden from the ballot in your state of South Dakota if, say, he violated that part of the 14th Amendment by unfreezing assets for Iran or allowed terrorists to just openly walk over the southern border? I mean, do you think that you'd have that power, or your highest court would have that power?
Okay, so the second that Colorado ruled that Trump should be taken off of the ballot, and again, he's not taken off of the ballot, and the Supreme Court is almost certainly going to overrule it. The right was tripping over themselves to come up with a both sides way to also take Biden off. And they haven't yet come up with anything that makes sense. But in Texas, it's the border. For Kellyanne Conway, it's he let terrorists cross the border. Which terrorists? What are you talking about? Or unfreezing assets? Again, like, do you want to go back through what past presidents of Reagan gave money to? There's no point in arguing with these people. But Kristi Noem, who is generally a quite unreasonable person, isn't going to 100% take the bait. Take a look.
I don't believe so. That's what is so interesting. It's, the process that the court has is a balance to our federal government. It is a balance to our executive branch, a balance to our legislative branch. So us exerting the kind of influence on the court and their decisions to take that kind of action is really unprecedented.
Okay, so she still has to say that it's unacceptable that a court would ever actually apply the 14th Amendment. Again, I don't know why that's so weird, but I loved her quote that I don't think I'd be able to do that, and that's what's so interesting. Is it interesting that if something doesn't apply, you can't do it, but if it does apply, you can? I don't think that's interesting. I think that's just how the world works. But Mondale, what do you think?
It's also interesting, John, that you're a governor, not a Supreme Court justice, so no, you can do it, right? Let's be clear. These two things are not the same. Furthermore, man, it is beyond crazy to me that these people are going this far. I'm talking about we continue to see statues fall around Trump, different level of statues, lawyers, accountants, they all go to jail for Trump. And they all do this bidding. It's unbelievable to me that nobody's willing to stand up and say, okay, this is enough. This is too far. Kellyanne Conway lives with a Republican who is actually doing this, I guess, in the Lincoln Project, whatever they're doing. Her husband is doing it. But I mean, the fact that she's willing to still go on TV, even after she left the Trump administration, to still carry this water is blinding to me. I cannot wrap my head around the fact that these people are not willing to say that Trump is guilty of something or anything.
Yeah, the coup doesn't change their mind. The Georgia phone call where he literally says, "Find me the exact number of votes I need to change the result." The call with Ukraine doesn't convince them. He had boxes of classified documents next to his toilet because they don't care. Again, we have this like psychological failing wherein, because we generally like to have reasons for what we believe, we think inaccurately that everyone abides by that same sort of system. And that's not how it works. They are not waiting for better evidence. They're waiting to be given everything they want by a strong man who's on their side, or at least perceived to be on their side. That's how it actually works. So look, they're making these, there's a congressional candidate in Florida who's saying take him off the ballot in Florida, all of them. Which, by the way, I love how clearly it demonstrates that when they say, if they ever engaged with the actual content of the Colorado case, that it shouldn't apply to the president, they're saying it should apply to Biden. So they clearly think that that's how Section 3 works. But again, hypocrisy is expected. With that said, I want to move on to, I think, something that's more classically Kellyanne Conway than even that ridiculous conversation. Take a look at this.
Conservatives or center-right voters, Trump supporters being called deplorable, irredeemable, mega MAGA. Now they're being castigated and denigrated in a different way that they can't possibly be wise and judicious in their presidential selection. So the Supreme Court of Colorado must do it for them by kicking someone off the ballot. But what do you think of that? I'm sure you hear from people all the time that feel shadow banned and censored and canceled. How does this play into that, if at all?
I see both sides of it. I see people consistently seeing the hypocrisy and the corruption that is happening from the left and how they're using this against people that are their enemies in their agenda that they want to pursue. But I also would say, though, Kellyanne, is the more this stuff happens, the more they normalize it. The more often that they use our judicial system and our Supreme Court to play these political games, to go out and to fundamentally rewrite justice, the more it becomes normal.
It isn't rewriting. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is already there. They're not changing it. And again, like Kellyanne Conway and Kristi Noem are not arguing on the merits of the decision from the Colorado Supreme Court. They're saying, wouldn't it be unfair if MAGA, I've literally never heard that before, don't get to vote for Donald Trump? But hold on, like I understand that you only care about Trump in this, but the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment exists. Even if you believe that it shouldn't apply to the president, it lists all these different classes of politicians that it does apply to. Your argument that, yeah, but it's not fair because it denies the voters a chance to vote for them. Okay, but so what if a congressman engaged in insurrection? There's no question that that is specifically in Section 3. Were you to ban him under the clear language of Section 3, it would deny the voters a chance to vote for him. So what are you arguing? You're not actually arguing that just Trump should be free of this. You appear to be arguing that we should change the Constitution. We should amend it again to get rid of Section 3 or possibly the entire 14th Amendment. But again, that's expecting too much intellectually out of these people. This isn't about principles. This isn't truly about ideology. This is about whatever helps Trump in the moment. It's not about setting precedents. There will be no precedent because a precedent implies consistency over time, and there will be no consistency. Whatever helps Trump and the MAGA movement right now, that's what we believe. And if we have to believe the exact opposite tomorrow because it benefits him, then that's what we'll believe. And they're literally doing that, not even waiting a day, in saying that Trump couldn't possibly be held under Section 3, but Biden should in multiple states. It's a perfect demonstration of Orwellian doublethink, literally from sentence to sentence. Mondale, thoughts?
Yeah, I find it funny now that they're trying to the center right. There's no center right in this country. Like there's just Trump and Trump, and if you're not with Trump, then you're not a Republican. You're a rhino. Period. Everybody understands that now. And it also, listen, we don't even need to do fancy work to understand that it included the office of president. The Constitution calls the president the office of president. It says if you committed this law, you cannot hold an office. You cannot be an officer of the United States. I mean, this is plain language. I mean, and we know that if it's plain language, you don't need to do research anywhere else. So we know this. And if you look at the discussion of the two senators who actually created 14th Amendment, third section, if you see the people who wrote it when they wrote this bill, that actually this conversation came up. One said, hey, it seems that you excluded the president. The other said, why do you think we excluded the president when we said any officer and refers to the president as the officer of the president? This satisfies my argument is what the senator said. And then they passed the 14th Amendment. This is not, like you said, about intellectual argument or disagreement. This is about how do we remain faithful to Donald Trump? Because we seen this man say he would tear up the Constitution. We seen this man say he would be a dictator, and we seen them clap for that. We seen this man bash veterans. We've seen this man bash POWs. We've seen this man bash every institution in this country, including the police, which I thought that party loved so much so that when we said Black Lives Matter, they made the Smurfs important when they said Blue Lives Matter. So I seen this party, the Republican Party, turn against everything they believe for the orange greatness. And they can't tell me anything other than Donald Trump is right, regardless of what he's saying. And like you said, it don't take a day. They'll spin immediately if Donald Trump tell them to. Right now, he's saying he's against, or they shouldn't be going so hard on abortion, when last week he was the abortion king. He was the anti-abortion king, and now they're about to do a whole flip where they're telling Republicans stop talking about abortion. How about that for you, John?
That is a great point. Like there are people on January 6th, like they're chanting back the blue as they bludgeon cops to death. You know, Donald Trump literally thanked what he thought was an officer in the leadership of BLM for endorsing him because he loves BLM. What are you talking about? Like the double, like it is right to point out that many people in this movement are not particularly intelligent or curious or whatever, but they don't get nearly enough credit for the mental flexibility that they do have to believe obviously contradictory things at the same exact time. And by the way, in terms of the message, the messaging of the people who wrote that section, I haven't previously seen that, but I would like to see that and possibly report on it.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.